Hi, I'm Samantha Werner, creator of Werner Wellness, your resource for living life holistically. I've created a presentation for you called Natural Woman in the Modern World. It's going to show you some ways in which you can live life more vitally, more simply, even despite some factors around us that might be working against you. If we first consider things that impact our health, the greatest contributor are our healthy behaviors, which includes the way you eat, getting physical movement, stopping smoking or other substance intake. Genetics plays a role, the environment, the place in which you live, and whether or not you have access to healthcare. One element of healthy living that I'm excited to share with you is that shared by Susan Weed. She discusses a hierarchy of healing. And when people want to help themselves, I recommend that they start with the most simple approach first. This includes doing nothing, as Susan calls it, gathering information, working with energetic awareness, strengthening certain systems or organs, stimulating those systems, then using supplements, then using drugs, then using surgeries. So as you can see, there's many steps before supplements or before invasive procedures. And to be more specific, Susan Weed outlines what those behaviors might look like. Consider that some elements of healing could be as simple as prayer, homeopathy, which is actually an energetic medicine, ceremonies, rituals, laughter. There's even a certain kind of yoga called laughter yoga. And the idea is to stimulate nitric oxide and endorphin production, therefore reducing inflammation in your body. You can use herbal infusions, vinegars, hugs. There's research that has been done on hugs and the number of hugs that you need per day in order to stimulate health and healing in your body. Massage, there's various kinds of massage and yoga, hydrotherapy, different kinds of tinctures. Even herbs are on a spectrum of least invasive to most invasive, or least strong to most strong. There's different choices in foods that you can use. And then we have a look at supplements. Supplements are not without side effects, and some of them are more potent than others, especially depending on how they were produced, the quality of their growing conditions, the company from which they came from. So they have the ability to do just as much harm as good. So remember that just because something is natural doesn't mean that it's safe or maybe even suitable for you at this point. Then, after those steps, it's wise to consider drugs and surgery. And have a look at this step 8, break and enter. Threatening language is considered to be, on the scale of invasiveness, very intense. Colonics, another so-called natural remedy that is not without side effects. People don't consider its impact on the bacterial colony and whether or not that approach is needed at that point, or if there are more simple measures that could be taken. Not to say that those things aren't effective, they just need to be done in the right manner and timing. So I have arranged some modalities according to their scale of intensity. Let's see if there's some things on here that you are not familiar with. If you want to read through this list, I'm going to point out some women-centered approaches such as cycle syncing, or FEM, fertility education and medical management. That is a series of 3 educational classes that I teach women about how to know their cycle more in depth. We focus on 4 key hormones, and we look at the 4 stages of a woman's natural hormonal cycle and how she can influence that with nutrition and lifestyle changes. Mayan abdominal massage is something else that I really love to point out. It's a practice of self-care that anyone can do, man or woman. For women, it focuses on the uterus and lifting the uterus using the hands, because the uterus is a hammock-like organ. It is Well, you can think of it like a hammock. It's suspended by ligaments. So therefore, you can use your hands to lift it back into position and continue to keep it there using your breathing, awareness of alignment, and positioning of the pelvic. If you learn how to breathe with the diaphragm and engage the pelvic floor muscles throughout your day, you have a better chance at keeping your uterus in its best position so that it can receive the most circulation and therefore nutrition to function properly. New moon circles are also something that is happening more and more these days. There's a group called the Wild Woman Collective, and a friend of mine in Columbus hosts circles of women in which she sets an intention, maybe shares some astrological happenings, maybe has an art or music activity, just something to bring women together in a shared space of joy and fun. Visualizations are a hugely important part of connecting with the reproductive system and stimulating the hormonal feedback loop because it begins in the brain. So, as you can see, there's a variety of modalities, many steps to consider before you get to the point of drugs or surgery or even supplements that can have a really fun, fantastic impact on your health. There's a few key healers that I want to point out, women offering this kind of healing work nationally, internationally, locally. Lissa Rankin is an obstetrician, gynecologist. Pamela Weibel is located in Portland, Oregon. Christian Northrup is another obstetrician gynecologist who's well known and respected within the New Age and holistic health fields. Alyssa Vitti, she's written a book called Woman Code. And if you want to know more about cycle syncing or to download an app that helps you tune into the phases of your cycle and what it means in terms of your energy and emotion, Alyssa Vitti is a great resource for you. Aviva Ram is another women's health specialist, and she really focuses on adrenal and thyroid health, and she has a plan called the Adrenal Thyroid Revolution. Before she went to Harvard Medical School, she spent many years as a midwife, and so brings that experience into her practice. And of course, as I've already mentioned, Susun Weed. This woman has an arsenal of books that she has written for the span of a woman's lifetime, for every phase. One, the fertile years, the childbearing years, the menopausal years, and fantastic information on herbs, nutrition, and movement. In Columbus, Ohio, which is my hometown, I've discovered some key practitioners, one of whom is my abdominal massage therapist, Nicole Karas. Melissa Yang is an acupuncturist who's focusing on women's fertility. Dawn Combs is an ethnobotanist who sells herbal products at many of the farmers markets and even at a storefront. Mockingbird Meadows is the name of her brand. Brandy James is an herbalist whose product is called Rainbow Bee, and she makes handmade, natural health and beauty products. And then myself, your presenter, Samantha Werner. I'm also someone doing this healing work. So FEM is one of the modalities that I've mentioned, and it stands for Fertility Education and Medical Management. I teach a series of 3 classes to help women learn how to monitor their hormones and vital signs of health, which we call biomarkers. And you learn how to chart. Primarily, you chart cervical fluid or cervical mucus and luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone is a key hormone that causes the egg to be released. And you can monitor it using urine test strips, which you can buy for 20 or so bucks on Amazon. This FEM technique is a method of FAM, or fertility awareness method. There are many approaches, but FEM uses primarily cervical fluid and luteinizing hormone as the key biomarkers. Good health is good communication. This is one of my favorite quotes by functional medicine physician Mark Hyman, and this picture illustrates it best. If you are a woman in your fertile years, there is a feedback loop, even in any phase of life, there's a feedback loop called the hypothalamic pituitary axis. And basically it means that your brain is communicating with the rest of your body, or the glands within your brain are sending messages. And if those messages are not being sent, then there's a break in this feedback loop, and this symphony of actions that are meant to be carried out on a cyclical basis cannot occur. So if you are not cycling, there's a chance that the signal in your brain is not telling the rest of your reproductive system to get going. So follicle stimulating hormone is that key hormone. Luteinizing hormone is another hormone that's produced in the brain. And then two hormones that I'm sure you're very familiar with, estrogen and progesterone, those are produced in the ovaries. So when you hear the word hormone, don't just think of the reproductive system. Think of them as messengers. So they're sending signals throughout your body, and hormones are involved in every organ system in the body, not just reproductive functioning. Have a look at this list on the right side that says, can my hormone levels be influenced by any factors? Yes, you can impact your hormones with, of course, diet, your weight. Fat cells are where estrogen receptors are stored. So the more fat you have, the more estrogen storage capacity you have. So if you have too much estrogen, losing weight is an obvious solution, although I know that just telling someone to lose weight is not the easiest thing to do, and there's a lot of mental, emotional factors that can contribute to someone being able to do that. And I will discuss that at a later point, or you can follow my blog post or Instagram to hear more of my thoughts on weight loss and balanced body image. Exercise, many different kinds of movement, specifically something like Kundalini Yoga. There are distinct exercises that work on very specific pathways in the body to stimulate hormonal feedback loops. Sleep is one of the greatest overlooked indicators of health, and many healthcare practitioners are preaching this message that we are a chronically sleep deficient society. Stress, I know it's a catch-all phrase, but basically the things that are happening in your life and how you respond to them. So you get to choose how you respond to your life events. And hopefully it's with a sense of ease and calm most of the time, so that your body gets the message that it's safe to reproduce, or that it's safe to carry out these hormonal feedback loops. Substances, caffeine and sugar are two very impactful substances to consider, and learning to observe how they impact your hormones. If you take good records, if you document what you eat and how you feel and what body symptoms you're experiencing, you can make the connection how much those substances are impacting your health and your energy. Any underlying medical conditions that you have and any treatment that you're receiving can have a direct impact on your hormones, your body. This is an image from FEM, Fertility Education and Medical Management Training, that I will share with you. It shows the ovulation cycle, and I could go into detail here, but all I want to tell you is that there's 4 key hormones. You can see them listed: follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, estrogen, and progesterone. And then those are the lines going up and down and all around. And that these squares at the bottom of this image, each square represents a day. And each color represents an observation of what this woman is seeing in terms of her cervical fluid. So the red is menstrual fluid. The gray is a high progesterone containing fluid. The blue colors indicate high estrogenic activity, and that fluid is more watery, slippery, lubricative. These are observations you can make when you go to the bathroom, when you wipe, or the sensation that you feel throughout the day as you're walking around. And this is giving you key information about which hormone is predominant in your body's cycle right now. And then those letters at the bottom, EL and ES, just mean high estrogenic mucus, or G stands for gestogenic, high progesterone containing mucus. So at the top of the chart, underneath where it says estrogen and progesterone influence the cervix, you see images of a growing egg. So during the beginning of your cycle, let's start with menstruation, the egg is not yet recruited. So your body sends a message to the ovaries to let it know that it's time to start selecting eggs to grow and mature them. So as they begin growing, it leads up to this point of ovulation so that the egg is developed enough that it can be released from the egg, from the follicle. And what's left behind causes a shift in which hormone is predominant, which is progesterone. So look at these two curves and notice how in one half of your cycle, the first half, before the egg is released, estrogen is predominant. And in the second half of your cycle, progesterone is predominant. So this doesn't need to be as complicated as it may seem at first. Basically, know that estrogen and progesterone are important hormones that are produced by the ovaries. And you can impact their production through the foods that you eat and selecting certain foods to maximize those hormone levels so that they're within a healthy range, so that the right messaging is being sent, because good health is good communication. At the bottom of this slide are microscopic images of the cervical fluid and what it looks like, because each kind of fluid has a purpose in your body. Particularly, the purpose is that you can recreate, procreate, and make a baby. So the sperm needs to survive in your reproductive system in order for that to happen. So that is the purpose of the cervical fluids: either prevent microorganisms from getting into your reproductive system or to assist the movement of sperm through the reproductive system. So in general, if you're looking at these slides like a piece of artwork, one might be able to say that the EL or ES, the estrogenic mucus, is more like a roadway, and it allows the sperm, it facilitates the upward movement of sperm. Whereas these other net-like images, the high progesterone containing fluid, they prevent the transmission of sperm, and also they prevent other microorganisms from getting into your reproductive system, hoping to keep you healthy and hoping to promote the growth of a potential embryo. I teach women how to identify what this fluid looks like. Perhaps this woman is comfortable with her body. Perhaps she has clean hands and she feels like analyzing what she sees. So that's what these images are showing. There's certain adjectives we can use to describe the kind of fluid that you observe, and you will become more comfortable with what is normal for you and what is not normal. So you can begin to recognize when you might be out of balance, and knowing that you might need to take some more steps to get yourself back into balance. Again, there's a color coding system with this FEM technique, and that's something that we could discuss in more depth. Here's a chart that outlines what those adjectives are and what the color coding system is, so you can begin to recognize a pattern for yourself after a series of several months. So the production of these hormones not only impacts what's happening in the ovaries, but it impacts what's happening in the uterus, specifically with the thickening of the lining or with the shedding of the lining. So that picture at the bottom, it looks like a little reddish mound and pinkish towards the end. That's representing the lining of the uterus. At the beginning of the cycle, that red shows that the lining is shedding, and then it's thinned. The endometrium is quite thin. And as hormone levels fluctuate, the lining builds up again towards the end of the cycle. And that's in the hope of a potential embryo being able to grow and attach to the lining and receive nutrients from the endometrium. This is an image of the ovary, and what's happening inside of it is an egg is growing and developing, and then it's released. And I pulled these slides just to show you that this whole symphony, this hormonal cycle, occurs in stages and phases throughout a woman's life. So if we look at adolescence up to the time of fertility, specifically, let's start with pre-puberty. We can look at this little dot represents the egg and what's happening with the egg. And then we see that the hormones have flatlined, estrogen and progesterone. There's not much activity happening. But in early puberty, progesterone and estrogen begin fluctuating. The egg, it begins maturing until mid-puberty, when the egg is growing and developing, and now we're seeing more spikes in progesterone and estrogen levels until late puberty, when there's some real peaks happening, and eventually so much so that an egg can be released. Now, this pattern shows up again in breastfeeding as well. When hormone levels decline, progesterone and estrogen are a little bit more flatlined. And so knowing that, a woman can chart looking for oncoming signals of increasing fertility in that estrogenic mucus so that she can know when she's fertile again. And also, the same way that a woman enters into fertility is the same way that she exits fertility when she enters menopause, and the hormones begin backing off and decreasing, lowering levels just in the same way that they started. So it's really cool to recognize that this is cyclical throughout your whole life. And it's kind of awe-inspiring to just have an awareness of which phase of life you're at and how to best utilize that. I've mentioned nutrition on several occasions. Food is truly medicine, and just have an awareness of how food impacts your hormones. It helps build hormones, it forms the basis of their structure, it regulates them. You can even regulate stress hormones by increasing your water intake, increasing your nutrient absorption. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants. One of my favorite quotes from researcher Michael Pollan. I mentioned earlier another modality called Woman Code. And this is the creation of Alisa Vitti, who's a holistic health coach. She shares something called cycle syncing. Cycle syncing is having an awareness of the anatomy and physiology of what I've just described to you in more depth, knowing about your fertility, whether or not you ovulate, which hormone is predominant when. But on top of the anatomy and physiology, you have an awareness of which foods bring your hormones into balance and what's happening with your emotions and energy levels. So basically, knowing that this is going to be a cycle of fluctuations, you learn to shape your life in tandem with those fluctuations instead of expecting yourself to be the same throughout the month. You'll begin to see that there's a cycle of coming inward and quiet time, and then outward expression and more communication, creativity, and then turning inward again. And that cycle happens throughout your life. So you can become more efficient, more powerful when you learn to work with your body's rhythms and give yourself permission in order to act in accordance with them. Alisa Vitti also outlines a plan for identifying which, if any, food triggers are causing you sensitivities and therefore some ill health. And she gives you some guidelines for detoxifying the organs that help your hormones function at healthy levels, specifically for your liver and digestive system. These are the 4 phases that you'll learn about through the FEM technique in classes with me. And Alisa Vitti has outlined what to eat, what kind of exercise to focus on, how many days that phase of your cycle can last, and what you can expect in terms of your cognitive, emotional, mental function. Here's a chart of foods and how to match them with the different phases of your cycle. Here's another image of what the cycle looks like if you begin charting it. Okay. Another factor that impacts your overall health is that of endocrine disruptors. Endocrine disruptors are a big part of our life. You can find endocrine disruptors in body, beauty, and home care products. They are basically fake hormones. They act like hormones in our body, but they are not the hormones that our body produces innately. You can find them, so they are chemicals, and chemical is a general term, again, for messengers. You can have natural chemicals that are formed in your body, and you can encounter synthetic chemicals in the environment. So think of endocrine disruptors as chemicals, but they are interfering with the hormonal feedback loop. You find them primarily in fragrances, perfumes, air fresheners, candles, household furniture, upholstery, carpeting, fire retardants, laundry detergent, bleach, cleaning supplies, makeup, It may be a lot of things to consider, but if you pick one thing in your life and you say, okay, this week I'm going to look into a more natural detergent, have a look at these websites, ewg.org, Environmental Working Group. And I've listed one company in particular from Columbus, Rainbow Bee, because I really like her products. And try something new. See if there's something that's less toxic, and notice if you see a linkage between any symptoms that you experience. I've witnessed a lot of clients that I've worked with either in a chiropractic setting or in Warner Wellness who have digestive disturbances and wear a lot of synthetic fragrances, or they have a laundry detergent that's very potent, and anything that you put on or near your skin is absorbed directly into the bloodstream. When you smell strong fragrances and it has an impact on your respiratory system, the way that you breathe, just see if it affects your breathing, your skin, your eyes. Maybe your eyes water more or less. So anyways, these are easy fixes. It might take some time. In more detail, how do these endocrine disruptors impact you? The National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences says that they produce adverse developmental, reproductive, neurological, and immune effects in humans and wildlife. Some potential outcomes include, there's a lot of things listed, but lowered fertility, that it affects your hormone levels, encourages fat cell growth, influences insulin resistance, impairs estrogen activity, impacts your IQ, interferes with the nervous system, on and on and on. So these effects contribute to the appearance of certain conditions, some of which may be endometriosis, cancer, ADHD, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, allergies, asthma, osteoporosis, and Parkinson's symptoms. Keep in mind that some chemicals are stored in the body for decades while others are metabolized and excreted quickly. But if you are exposing yourself on a constant daily basis, they accumulate over time. So although you might not see an immediate impact, know that you can make a big difference in the state of your health by paying attention to the products that you use. And those products don't just affect you and your health, they affect our environment, and our environment impacts us. So another note about hormones is that, as I said, hormones are messengers. They're not just a component of reproductive health. Let's look at estrogen and progesterone alone, which are two of many hormones, and notice how they impact your entire body system, your blood sugar balance, your blood clotting ability, the strength of your bones, your overall well-being, and your mental outlook. Yes, your hormones do impact the way that you think and your cognitive functioning. They can promote a state of well-being, or they can induce anxiety and depression. So knowing how to get them into balanced levels is really key for living a vital life. I have listed here a few self-care activities: diaphragmatic breathing, Epsom salts with essential oils in a bath. You can use magnesium oil directly on your body. I'm a huge proponent of yogic practices. I practice yoga on a daily basis. I've been practicing yoga since I was in grade school, and it's helped me tremendously. As I get older, I see people around me not having the same degree of mobility or body awareness that I've taken for granted because it was taught to me at an early age. So I'm really excited to share those practices with others at any point in life. Yoni steams are a practice that, by sitting over a container of steaming herbs, you can absorb the nutrients from the steam directly into your vaginal tissues, and that can help with nutrient absorption there and impact the hormonal feedback loop. If you want to know more about that practice, I recommend that you speak with Nicole Karas. She offers these steams at the Center on High in Columbus. Jade egg practices and pelvic floor therapy can help you have an awareness of using the pelvic floor muscles throughout your life, and not so that they're not either weak or overly engaged. Never underestimate the power of friendship, community, camaraderie, laughter. That is probably one of the greatest contributors to your health. And if you want to know more about the impact of gathering with other women and being playful and fun, I recommend that you learn about the work of Mama Gina. She gives workshops in New York City, and she's just a playful, outrageous spirit who's bringing women together to have a lot of fun and to get in touch with their power and their creativity. She says, "I'm devoted to raising women up to feel comfortable, strong, and powerful in their bodies and souls. I am devoted to banishing shame and replacing it with irrepressible pride and joy. I am devoted to teaching women to reconnect with Turn On and to release their fire, their outrageous outrage, their unstoppable love, their enthusiasm, their eros. I am devoted to women." So take a moment now and consider, what do you do for self-care? What would you add to this list? Is there anything that you're already doing or that you would like to do? Let me know as I figure out how to move this movie screen. There we go. I love quotes, and I have a quote to share with you from one of my favorite books. It says, "Is natural medicine an alternative? Western medicine looks at the human body as a machine that can be fixed, and natural medicine often presents humans as filthy temples that have a need for constant cleansing. There's another way, a way where I'm not a machine and not unclean, a way where I don't have to be sick in order to rest and relax, a way where I give myself permission to listen to the messages from my body and not to statements from authorities. When I utilize the different opportunities that life presents to me, and I come into wholeness with my feminine self and into harmony with nature, then I will attain health. I want to resonate with the ups and downs of life, the changes of the moon, the cycle of birth, fullness, and death, so that I can comprehend health, as described by Moshe Feldenkrais, the founder of the body therapy of the same name. A healthy person is one who can fully live their hidden dreams." Adelheid Oleg, the author of Luna Yoga, Vital Fertility and Sexuality. I'm going to repeat that. A healthy person is one who can fully live their hidden dreams. This is why I do the work that I do and why I'm excited to enhance the lives of more women all around the world. So whether you're by yourself or with someone else in the room, just ask yourself aloud. To me, health is an answer to that question. So to me, health is living as my most vibrant self, feeling alive and inspiring that lightness in others. That's health for me. So I'll leave you with this question. I know I've already asked a few questions. Here's one more. What's your next step to living as a natural woman in this modern world? After seeing this presentation and hearing a perspective on what that means, is there anything that's been excited or inspired within you? Is there something you'd like to pursue more, a practitioner you'd like to see, a modality you'd like to try, a book you'd like to read, or maybe you'd like to reach out and work with me? So what's your next step to living as a natural woman in this modern world? And then take that step. So start anywhere, follow it everywhere. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed with an inundating amount of information. Just start. If you'd like to know just a little bit more about me, you can read about me and my work at wernerwellness.com. As I said, I offer educational classes in group settings, online, in person, one-on-one. A very exciting happening is our second Bodacious Woman Weekend. It is a now biannual event at Blue Rock Station outside of Zanesville, Ohio. It is a weekend of fun and learning and support, community, delicious food. Our theme this year is Food is Medicine, and you're going to be eating well and laughing well and enjoying yourself. you can check out more information on the Blue Rock website. As for my background, I've got a bachelor's in alternative approaches to health and wellness from The Ohio State University. I've been learning about natural health since I was 11. My family brought me to that. And I've also worked in a hospital setting. I've considered a variety of medical paths for the past decade. And through all that I've learned, I've brought my knowledge and experience together to create Werner Wellness to serve you and your health and healing needs. I also have a certification in yoga through the Center for Wholeness, and I incorporate Alexander Technique methods of body awareness, movement medicine, art of hosting facilitation training, sustainable living practices, energetic awareness, and pelvic health education. So if any of that sounds good to you, please feel free to reach out and connect with me online or in person, and I look forward to working with and serving you. Thank you so much.